Hey everybody, what is going on? How you guys doing out there? Oh, that's right. Well, let's see here. Got a couple of things going. What is up? How you feeling? Oh man, just reloading a few pages here. And again, it is so good to be back. So good to be back. So good to be here. We are here and we are back and we are all of that jazz. So, how you guys doing out there? What is going on, everyone? This is Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, coming at you from the Wizard's Tower, and I am so glad to be here. So glad to see you guys. You know, I don't know if I'm big enough in the frame. I think I wanna check out how big in the frame I would like to be getting at this moment right now. But thank you guys for showing up. I'm Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, and welcome to the Dark Side of the Room, where we talk about nerd stuff and a whole bunch of other things. And you know, it's a really fun and interesting thing and moment that's going on right now because tonight we got a couple of really cool and things coming down, such as well, let's see. Thing number one that we got coming down tonight. Hang on. There we go. All right. One of the cool and interesting things that we got going on and coming down the pipe for tonight is, yay! It is going to be time for another episode of Warp Tumblr's C24. I'm back to running the games on the channel and all that jazz. So we are going to be hanging out and doing that thing and talking about all that stuff. But today, our episode is based on, well, I had to do a couple of things over the course of the weekend. Ooh, man, let me just turn the music down just a little bit, all right, before you start typing and making your fingers bleed, Neon Arlecchino. Yeah, we are going to be talking about something because I had to do something over the weekend that you guys don't get, that you guys don't really get many videos on, not from me, not from a whole lot of other people. And I'm like, you know, it's about that time to start talking to people about this. So what we are doing, and this is big, today we are going to be talking about, oh wow, my yeah, my YouTube channel is a little bit blurry. Well, hey, you know what? If y'all don't like it over there on the YouTube, come on over on Twitch where everything is bright and all that stuff. So, with all that being the videos, hey, what's going on? It's King. It's the Super King. What is up? All right, I'm glad that you're here. So, when I say you guys don't get a whole lot of videos on this, I am dead serious. I'm dead serious about the fact that not enough people get videos on a really important topic. Now, this topic that we're talking about today comes down to you get stuff all over the place, especially from the D&D celebrity circuit, right? You know, the celebrity circuit is like, yeah, you should do this particular thing, but it never really says how or what to talk about and all that stuff. So we're going to be covering that today, right? That is what we are going to be talking about and covering today. But first, I got to do all the begging and all that jazz. So the first bit of the begging I got to do, I'm trying to make sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, so the first bit of begging that I got to do today is, oh, that link is expired? Well, guess what? I'm just going to put a new one up there. So, ha, ho, ho, ha. Oh, no wonder. Okay. So, we're just going to do that. And, boom, I'm putting the link to the Discord right there. Look at that. Yeah, I got the link of the Discord. All right, guys. Because, yeah, oh, that was stupid. I accidentally turned the thing off, but I'll just, yeah, there we go. So yeah, because, well, I think talking to us over the Discord and all that jazz is very cool. And if you want to get a hold of us, it's very simple. All you have to do is head over to back in the deck at gmail.com. It's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. Hang on a minute. Did I give the right one? Let me just double check on the Discord server. I think that's the one. That might be the thing. And yeah, we got all that going. I'm double checking. Boom. That right there. That's the Discord server that I'm trying to give you guys the link to. Isn't that fun? So yeah, head on over to the server, do the thing, say what's up, say how's it going with everybody, and all that jazz. So you can also hit us up at backinthedeck at gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. You can also hit us up on the social media that everybody has and no one likes. I'm talking about Twitter and Instagram, both at backinthedeck. And of course, hang on, let me just put the new Discord link right here in the YouTube channel. And, you know, if you like the way that we think and you would subscribe to our point of view, you can always like and subscribe and all that stuff. And if you're still part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook, then join the group Deckers on the Book. All right? If you join Deckers on the Book, then there's a whole lot of cool stuff that you guys will get to see and experience and all of that jazz. So that would be cool. There's also, guys, oh, hang on. And the other ways, look, the channel does need a lot more support. So I'm depending on you guys to share and to subscribe here on Twitch, and head on over. Like, if y'all can spare it, hit that donate button, which would be awesome. And also head on over to our Patreon, okay, just for as little as $5 a month, guys. That would be super awesome if you guys are willing to do that, because honestly the past couple of months has been very difficult, and we could use I'm gonna say we could use some of the support because stuff is hard. Stuff is really hard these days. And you know, so that would be very cool if you guys were to head over. Yeah, just head on over. Hang on, I'll just put that there. To patreon.com/BID_P and become patrons. We really appreciate the support. I put out some free content last week, and yeah, we've got some other stuff. That's right, I got a couple of Patreon exclusive things for the short form stuff that we're doing, because there's more coming. There is going to be so much more coming. And also, you know, we have a donation button, and every little bit helps. I'm not gonna lie. So that's how that goes. Now, there's a school that says I should always look like everything is going fine. We should be doing great. I shouldn't let you guys see me sweat and all that jazz. But y'all know I'm honest with you. And if that costs me popularity or makes it so that I can't make a living off of this by being honest with you guys, then that makes me sad, and I'll just have to accept. But that is just a thing. Uh-oh. Looks like I froze up. All right, I'm doing a little better. All right, that's cool. So, but with that, with my patrons and all that jazz, my royalty tier are the people that donate or pledge $20 or more a month, and I give them shout outs. I actually gave them their own little graphics, so here they are: Laura Holden, Shaylee Watson, Jennifer Kroll, Noel Allheiler, Glenn Couch, Christopher Chalmers, and Joseph Hines. So thank you guys. Now, I keep all the names by memory, but some come, some go. It's a flux back and forth thing. I would really appreciate the support for a lot of the stuff that we're pulling off, specifically the community outreach stuff. This has been a thing. Another way that you can support the channel, if you guys are just like one-time buy things, and I totally get that, is we got merch, y'all. We actually finally have merchandise for you, and that is right here at tpublic.com/user BID merch. So this page is not set up all that well, but these are the designs that I have up. And that is, hey, look, yeah, you can get Lil Saul t-shirts in so many colors. Not gonna lie, this one I think is one of my favorites. That's the charcoal or asphalt. And yeah, I think this one looks pretty cool. Actually, no, that one does not look pretty cool. And of course, you know, you got them in black and things like that. Also, I think this one is one of my favorites because, yeah, this is Lil Saul gives you a hug, and it comes in all of the sizes and all that jazz. What's the female fit? I'm not quite sure. Oh, okay, look at that. It's all nice and female things. But we have so much more here, like t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, stuff for kids. Look at that. It's the onesie. That's right. The Back in the Deck onesie with the Back in the Deck logo or Lil Saul doing Lil Saul thing. And of course, my two favorite things that we have here are the Back in the Deck coffee mugs, which I'm probably going to put up in more colors. And I'm doing a new design every single month. This is our design for May, but I'm not taking down the old designs, guys. Since there are new strains of COVID happening all the time, we got the Back in the Deck masks, and I think they look pretty cool. And of course, since we talk about gaming and writing and all that stuff, where would you guys not be if you didn't have your own notebook? There we go. And of course, this is a lot of the merchandise that we have, and I ain't gonna lie at that stuff. Since I'm working with an outside distributor, I only get like $4 a shirt or something like that, and so I'm really hoping you guys can rock the merch and show people how cool it is and share the links and all that stuff. That would be really awesome for you guys to do that. I would appreciate it so much and so deeply. All right. So now that we've got all that, it comes lined. Actually, the notebook does come lined. Matter of fact, let's take a good look for that since Neon Arlecchino is asking a question. So yeah, it comes in hardcover and spiral for you Tool fans out there, and of course, yeah, it comes ruled, so it comes in the line. So, and that is the awesome stuff that's there. All right, so yeah, and that's what we got on that one. And of course, this month, around the 10th, it'll be coming in different colors. So that is going to be one of the things that we're doing over there. I really appreciate all of that stuff. So now that we have all that taken care of, I also want to give a shout out to my folks in the chat. Let's see who's here today. We got Clever Lil Vixen holding it down like gravity. We've got Mr. Booty Pained, Alien Conglomeration is Niceable, Vixabel, is that Xylane? I think it's, or Xylane. Neon Arlecchino, and thank all of you guys for being here. So, let's get to today's subject. All right? Now today's subject. The subject for today is something pretty cool and pretty what's the term? Yeah, today's subject is well, how can I put this? This weekend I had to have a meeting, and meetings are meetings, and that is just what they do. And today's meeting, or this weekend's meeting, involved a lot of my new players with one of the games that I. And when I say you don't get a whole lot of videos about this, I literally mean that. I have scoured YouTube, and I see so many videos about maximizing your character for combat. I see how to make combat better, how to, combat, character optimization. And then eventually, I see a couple of things like, the king of D&D right now, Matt Mercer, great guy by the way, sit up and say maybe you should talk to your players. Okay? And this is what I want to address because it's good advice, very good advice. But I look at it like good advice in the same way that telling your kid that they have to study and make better grades is also good advice. Meaning, yes, these are things that have to happen, but how? Talk to your players. What do you want to talk to your players about, you know? And the big thing that I'm seeing with a lot of new players is an assumption versus a clarity of the relationship between the dungeon master and the players. Okay? Now, there are, you guys know if you watch the channel as often as I'd like you to watch the channel, you guys know that I break things down to like 2 or 3 different compartments. Okay, I'm a list maker by trade. And one of the big things I see, and I see so often, are the 3 main categories of player DM relationship. Category 1, antagonistic. Okay, a lot of new players look at the relationship between GM and player as one of adversarial, if you, right? And it's easy to come to this conclusion because the GM runs all the monsters, and when you think about the game in any of the games, in regards to combat or social interaction or embarrassment, it's easy to find that competition state. Second relationship is teacher-student, okay? Where a lot of players depend on the GM to teach them how to play the game. And this is not an unfair thought as far as the relationship between the two goes, because of the title Game Master or Storyteller or Narrator. And, polysyllabic. I just like saying words like that. But within the realm, like real true place in this, that's an understandable assumption of relationship. And of course, the third is passive. Okay? And over the weekend, when I say passive, this is where we get into the first big topic of today's conversation. Okay? I was talking to my players, and I posted the big question that every GM needs to ask their players. And before you guys start typing, especially if you guys are veteran gamers, give me a minute. I am going to talk about session 0. However, that is moving on an assumption that we're going to get to. Okay? Now in a session 0, yeah, you do have to ask the question. So what is it that you guys want out of this game? And how do you think this game is? Okay? And it was interesting because 2 of my players said exactly the same things, but they meant it in 2 different ways. And I want to... They both said, I'm good. Hey, how's it going, Alpha Talking? It's good to see you there. And when they said, I'm good, one player was very passive, and another is adversarial by nature, but they said the same words. Okay? So, what do we do as a GM when it comes to your player's belief in the relationship between the GM and the player? Okay? So the first one I talked to was one of my players that's like, I'm good. And I put the announcement out there because we live in an age of owning, right? And when I say that, I know right now discourse in any subject seems trying. And I mean, it's almost like it's difficult to have a conversation with just about anyone because most conversations seem adversarial conversations in bad faith that seem to be specifically there to prove one's superiority over the person that they're talking at. And yes, I'm saying talking at, not talking with. Okay. And when I posed the question of what these new players want, I got a lot of the 21st century awkwardness. Okay. Um, where it was, well, I mean, I don't want to say nothing. It's your game, so you know. And I'm like, okay, guys, here's the thing, and this is what I want to put to you. Okay, I put out the um, I put out the notice of I am not here to win an argument. I don't argue for. You guys know that my least right now is called Super. And it's a game of nothing but arguing. And people nowadays, places like Fox News, OAN, stuff like where the discourse or the argument is the point. It's just gaslighting and silencing other persons. Win. That's not fun. Proof. I've observed that only to the people who are doing it, not to the ones that have the confidence. So I'm like, I'm not here to win. Okay. Yeah, I know the sound dropped off half a sec. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not here to win, guys. And a lot of my players were going, well, it's your game. And I'm like, it is not my game. This is where the relationship between GM and players really hit me and made it so that I rewrote today's episode to talk about it, right? The whole point of tabletop role-playing and most group projects is that they are collaborative. Now, I come from African American culture. And African American culture has its foundation on a lack of collaboration. Right? Sorry to tell you guys, slaves weren't allowed to work together. Everyone did as they were told. And if anyone showed intelligence enough to organize and all that stuff, they were whipped, beaten, and crippled. That's just what history. That's our history. Okay? That is the history of the United States. This is what happened. And the side effect from that was that people in my culture and a lot of the disenfranchised cultures were taught to be silent. Now, why is this important? Because if you're a gamer, chances are you know disenfranchisement, okay? When I game with a lot of women, they're not used to being listened to, so they don't put themselves out there to be listened to. When I game with a lot of LGBTQ players, they're not used to being taken seriously, so they don't try, and they go a lot of whoop whoop woo. And this is just my experiences. Your mileage may vary. And when I deal with players that look like me, black players, the closest thing to collaboration that we really have are sports teams, where there's got to be a coach and there's got to be a captain. And breaking out of that mindset to understand that every person at the table has an equal amount of worth and value to something that is collaborated was something that I had to teach these players. Okay. And this was a really big thing that came down. Oh, thank you, Black and White. Yeah. All right. So yeah. Yes, thank you, Backside Pained. So how do we teach this? Well, this comes back to the talking to your player. Once my players understood that I was asking the question in good faith, what do you guys want out of this game? And they were like, well, no, I'm good. And I'm like, look, I know that you guys are not over the moon happy with every aspect of this game. So if I were to change something, what is it that I can do as a GM to make the game fun, more engaging? What I'm asking. And I'm not here to tell you wrong. I'm here to see what I can do to accommodate desires. And one of the players then gave me a laundry list. And I'm like, okay, all right, we can do that kind of thing. I'm not going to do exactly what you tell me, but I will find a way to address the reasons that you're upset about these. Now, second, what are the things that you guys are? And I ended up having to talk to each players individually, primarily because no one wanted to be embarrassed in front of the other players. And when it comes talking with your, especially you GMs out there that have people new to the entire concept of role playing, this is brand new. The games themselves are designed for a collaborative experience. And when I say that, I mean everybody throws in a little bit of something so that the entire table can have the maximum amount of fun. Spider Robinson, one of my favorite sci-fi authors, coined the phrase, pain shared is lessened and joy shared is amplified. All right? And this is a really big thing that role-playing games really do push. All right? Now, there are some people that are just control freaks, and they're going to control. All right? However, there is the person that tries to control and the person who allows themselves to be controlled. And this is where conversations come in handy. Okay? As a GM, sometimes I have to play arbiter between players for character's sake. Okay? And I'm not gonna let you guys in on the whole conversation because it was between players and GM. But when one of the players brought up stuff that they didn't like that the other players were doing, I had to point out, dude, you're not playing their characters, they are. And if they're doing something you don't like in the plot, tough. And I also had to let those other players know, all right, I see what you're doing in regards to the character that you're playing. So how does this maximize fun for everybody at the table, not just living up to your thing? And they were like, wow, I didn't think about that. Well, I see my character class this way. And I'm like, okay, I can see how you see that. Here are a couple of alternative perspectives. And they're like, oh, so like Tony Stark. I'm like, exactly. There's no problem with being a contrarian in group conversation. But, hang on, I've got a coffee spill. I'm spilling my precious bean juice. Or my precious strained seed soup. If players want to play a contrarian, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Perfectly cool. Perfectly okay in conversation. But when it comes to enacting plans, then I always encourage my players to try and talk to them about answering themselves the question, are they doing this to increase the fun for the whole table or to increase the fun for themselves? Okay? And the truth is, a lot of the players I've had at tables tend to go off on their own tangents because they don't feel as though they're being listened to. And this is a really, really big things. All right? I mean, seriously. You know, a lot of the times when a player believes that the table doesn't really care about what they think or what they want, they may or may not engage in the conversation. They may or may not put their ideas forward. They may just play their own game on the side. And as a GM, it is my job to not force harmony between my players, but to arbitrate fairness. Now, if you guys are looking to be GMs, you guys will come across this, okay? Like I said, we live in an interesting age. Here in the 21st century, especially in the United States, people don't talk. All right? They just don't. And when I say they don't talk, they're not honest. What is that meme from Real Housewives? You know, every time someone talks to you, you got to say that everything is fine and act like everything's fine, but it's not fine, you know. And the fact of the matter is, these games are supposed to be escapism. They are written to be escapism. And what are we escaping? Most of the time, we're escaping that feeling that things aren't fine. We need to go somewhere where we can be something more than what we are, something different from what we are. And some people may not want that. But those people are a minority. Hang on, it's drink time. By the way, shouts out to Afatagan and Tay5069. Nice. Yeah. So as a GM's job is not to be the antagonist to the party. Sometimes they have to be the arbiter between people, you know, just kind of going, all right, you have an idea that your character wants to play the game this way, and this is what your character would do. How does that maximize the fun for everybody else at the table? And I can tell you, in my culture, okay, this is Black American culture, we ask a lot of questions that will kill story, okay? Such as, why are these people even together? That's a really big one, especially with newer players from my next of the woods. Because it's like, well, they're all strangers, why are they together? And as a GM, I've had to explain to people that sometimes in stories, you are together. This adventure is the forging of your friendship. Or you wrote this character as a stranger to everybody else. You can always change that. There is a huge level of power that the players have. But within our cultures, American culture, Black culture, gay culture, whatever culture you're in the 21st century in the United States, there is very much an overall, I guess you can say, message of powerlessness. And not because people are weak, but because we define strength by being the one that cannot be resisted and cannot be bargained with, okay? i.e., if I don't have the final say to anything, then I don't have any power at all. Like, we're becoming more and more binary, and that's not the case. Every collaborative work requires a little bit from everybody at the table. Not, I'm fighting to be the leader. No, I'm fighting to be the leader. I'm fighting to be the leader. Because in real life and stories, when everyone is fighting to be the one in charge, the team falls apart. Okay? Now, we were taught that everybody in a team has their position, they have all that stuff, but that does not mean that that position is subordinate and useless to something outside of their purview. If we take a look back at the movies that mean a lot to generations, I think Star Wars. Luke wanted to be a pilot, but he wasn't a pilot for the Resistance. But he was the one that shot the Death Star because they used to shoot womp rats in canyons that size on Tatooine all the time. You know? In the movie Willow, Willow got an idea from the moles that used to go in his town. He wasn't a fighter or a general or even a very good magic user. But he came up with a plan that worked. And when GMs and players lock themselves in what they think their position in the party is, they limit their own fun. Okay? Now, a lot of the times, it is possible that you have a person at the table that will lock everyone else in to these positions. Just because someone else thinks that, it doesn't make it true. The only thing that makes it true is role playing. And this brings us back to the topic at hand. When the players have decided that the game consists of antagonism between, or adversarialism between the GM and the players, all the way across the board, then it's a different experience. I pulled aside one player, and he explained to me that it's my vision, I put in a bunch of work, and he doesn't want to get in the way of that. And I had to explain to him the way that tabletop role-playing games work. As I say so many times in so many videos, I'm like, guys, I write an outline to a story, but there is absolutely nothing in the rule book in any place that says you have to stick to my outline. And there have been a lot of things that have happened in the game that I did not plan on that have been the seeds for most of the fun that's being had in the game. And it was started from a conflict between two players. One player wanted to do something, the other player said no. And then the third player said, hold up, what this player wants to do makes sense, and I'm backing them. And it was huff, 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 blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna complain and I guess you can say, God, what is it? My mom used to call it bam bam because the first word was an expletive meaning female dog, and moan. Just bam bam, bam bam. And as the game has progressed, everyone in the game has loved that plot twist. And I told them flat, and the stories that have come from that. And I'm like, dude, I write stories based on the decisions that your characters make and the actions that they take. Okay? But I get it, okay? There are a lot of players, and I don't care where you come from. If you grew up on media, you know tropes. Okay? Y'all know tropes. Y'all know, if you're in a horror game, don't run. Don't warn the rest of the gang. Don't go in that room, he's behind the door. But do your characters know the same tropes? Okay? That's the point. Because the big thing that I like to talk to my players about, especially when it comes to speed, is you know that your characters are in a horror story. But the characters that are in horror stories never know that they're in horror stories. Okay? The people in adventure stories never know that they are in an adventure story. They might be on an adventure, but they don't know whether or not what they're doing will be able to be serialized later. They're trying to get through today. And this is where a lot of people end up making, or a lot of characters end up making decisions that don't, right? Let's see. This is why I think Standards of Fate is great. Oh yeah, Fate is great. Genre tropes, and encourages players to work with tropes. Absolutely. Okay? So essentially, the relationship between game master and player is not one of adversarialism, except for during a combat. Specifically during a combat is when they're adversary. Except the GM wants the players to win the fights, because if it's a total party kill, game over. All right? Some GMs will act a whole lot of way, but the truth is, the GM wants the players to survive the fight. Okay? And if they don't, then they don't really want to play. Get what I mean? Because if one side wins, it's game over, you know? And with games that are competitive, all right, that is the point of the game, but that's not the point of tabletop RPG. Most tabletop RPGs are collaborative storytelling, collaborative storytelling creations between a group of people, a group of two or more. So when people say talk to your player, there are a few things that they need to include. The overall question: what kind of story is it that you'd like to be a part of? Okay. Would you like to be a part of a story with an ensemble cast? And if so, what genre? Okay. What genre of story would you like? Is this going to be a straight up adventure that you'd like to play? Would you like to play a horror game? Would you like to play a survival game? Would you like to play a realistic, gritty, hardcore game? Or a fun, pulpy adventure? You know, these are things that really need to be asked. Because, a lot of players, well, there's this human trait where however we learn something, our first interaction with something will be what we believe it is supposed to be. Okay, your very first interaction will shade every interaction after that. Okay? Now this isn't true, but it is what we believe, how we operate, how we behave. All right? So if you have a player that's used to coming from a table with antagonistic GMs, then they will have learned that the object of the game is to be more clever than the GM. All right? I know a lot of people who look at games as a matter of numbers. Okay? And a lot of people that look at games as a matter of story. So you have to ask them, how do they see them? All right? Second, do they know what an ensemble cast is? All right? Most stories, especially over the past 25 years, have focused on the idea of the audience insert character is also the chosen one. Okay? Just think about that for me. When you look at most adventures, as time has gone on for the past few decades, every main character is closer and closer and closer to a normal everyday person, i.e. middle class white guy, but normal everyday person inside these stories for every single generation. We've got the Dustin Hoffman Dog Day Afternoon dude who was just the regular schlubby guy of the 1970s. In the 80s, we got Bruce Willis in Die Hard, who was the working man. He was a cop, but he could have been a plumber at the same time, but he wasn't. Super trained, super competent. He was just a dude. In the 90s, we had Aladdin, who was the sensitive love interest, who had a heart of gold, but had trying circumstances. You know, and now we've got the awkward characters like Huey from The Boys, the way that Spider-Man is portrayed by Tom Holland. You know, I mean, that's just kind of the thing. But when it comes to ensemble, that is equal time to everyone in the cast, not, or equal importance, and not everyone is there to hold up the main character. And there's not a lot of examples of that in modern pop culture. Avatar: The Last Airbender came very, very, very close, but at the end of the day, it was still a story about Aang, right? I think the best example has always been the X-Men books and the Justice League books. You know, all the team comic book, all of the team comic books. But when Fox took over the X-Men franchise in 2000, it became the Wolverine show, right? Yeah, there we go. So, since most of our storytelling is everyone is the main character of their story, and we stop thinking about other characters, the conversations that have to be had between a GM and their players tend to revolve around, you are part of a team. Now, if the team doesn't get along, guess what? Teams don't get along. Read Fantastic Four or the Avengers. But they do find a reason to work together. Okay? And this is a really big one. But with that conversation, the GM oftentimes has to be the arbitration guy, the arbiter, the neutral party, the one that says, okay, okay, no, that is a point based on what happened in game. All right, so these are ways that you could have done so more inclusive. However, you're not perfect either. These are the things that you do that cut everyone out. Now, with your character, I'm seeing the way that you're talking about your character, so I have to ask you the question, do you plan on leaving game? Because a lot of these plans that you guys have for your individual characters all require them leaving everyone else. And that's cool when it comes to planning your character over the long term. I will be publishing a short term or a short form video on character creep probably in the next week. Look for that over on YouTube. However, and this is a really big one, guys. All right, you guys ready for this? You ready? All right. Having a long-term character goal is great. However, and this is a really big one, working on your character's long-term goal as though it's the only thing that they're focused on does not make good role-playing for everyone else at the table. Example. You create a character with a tragic backstory. And now, I must avenge my dead wife! Alright? I'm pulling from Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay? If Drax didn't work with the team and only focused on finding Thanos and avenging his family, then he wouldn't be part of that team. When they're trying to stop Ronan the Accuser, or when they're fighting monsters or taking contracts, that's not fighting Thanos. That's taking contracts to eat. That's hunting down clues for Thanos. Yes. But he's part of a team. He's working with that team. Now that doesn't mean that if he finds a lead, he doesn't pursue it. But what it does mean is if he pursues a lead, that can get in the way of the rest of the characters. Okay? So thank you so much, Alpha Toggin. He said it straight out. Teamwork makes your own goals possible, or more possible, in relation to tabletop RPGs. And this is the talk I like to have with my players. All right. Now a lot of the times, and everyone will have, there are all so many lists of types of players, but a lot of the times, and I deal with this in one or two of the games I run, and I'm running more and more every month. A lot of players tend to have the player that wants to avoid plot at all times. We're trained that the goal is to make each other look good rather than yourself. It's true. Yes. And to make sure that the scene comes off enjoyable to the rest of the crowd. You see what I mean? See what I did there? Huh? Yeah. And a lot of the times, again, there's a statement that says a broken clock is twice at least once a day, or at least twice a day. What I like to say is that no one has no contributions to give. Everyone has an idea. Okay? Hang on. Everyone has stuff to contribute. And I'm not saying there's no idea is a bad idea. Okay? There are things as bad ideas. However, in cooperation, okay, in short term and long term, even a bad idea can be used in a good way. All right? But what's important is that players are honest in their communication. Sometimes, as a GM, you are required to have one-on-ones with your players because it is standard operating procedure in the 21st century. And yeah, I'm sounding like old man yells at cloud, but bear with me. It is standard operations in the 21st century that no one is comfortable with anyone that they didn't already grow up with. I personally find this paradigm toxic, but I'm just old man yelling at cloud. So sometimes you got to take the one-on-ones. Now, I don't know what it takes to earn trust in the 21st century. Wish I did. I'd have a larger subscriber count, right? But what I will say is that that trust has got to come from somewhere, and pushing back the goalpost is not conducive to having fun with other people. So, as a GM with the relationship with your players, one, there has to be trust in the GM to start, and second, there has to be a willingness to trust everyone else at the table. Okay? It's a really, really, really important thing when it comes to collaboration. When I talk to these, you know, it's your game, so you can run it however you want. I always make it clear that it's not my game, it's our. And everyone has something to throw. But a lot of the times, it goes back to that power dynamic that I talked about. A lot of people believe that if they don't have the final say, then they shouldn't say anything at all. And in truth, that does not make for good collaborative experience. It makes for good dictatorial experience. It makes for really good missions and boss coworker projects, you know? If the dictator knows everything that has to be done and is utilizing people to the best of their ability, and the other people that are being utilized knows that they are just tools for the dictator to initialize. And if that's the kind of game that people want to play, cool. But what's important is that all of these things are on the table. I have a lot of players in a lot of games that are used to keeping their intentions to them. And I'm not saying this is a definite thing, but I do have a fear. Okay? I do have a fear, based on my own life experience, is that when people keep their intentions to themselves, they tend to not get what they want, especially when dealing with people in good faith, or dealing with people who deal in good faith. Because let's face it, like, let's be really real, really, really, really real. If you're depending on someone, your GM, figure out what you want and to give it to you without you asking, or you're depending on them to see through your facade, and you're upset because if they can see through your facade isn't good enough. None of those things are fun for anyone, okay? Or anybody. So as I like to say to young people, because when I run stuff in communities, like, I know kids like stealing my miniatures and stuff like that. Well, they don't like to. Sometimes they feel they have to. And I'm like, dude, I realize you stole this because you wanted it and you didn't want to risk me saying no. But here's the thing. Give me the chance to tell you yes. Give me the chance to surprise you. You never know. You get what I mean on that? And you would be surprised at how often this concept is foreign to a lot of people nowadays. And I get it. Times are weird. A lot of people were brought up with the idea of anything other than unconscious perfection makes them bad. Makes them bad at people. Right? I get it. I totally get it. Thing is, though, these are games. It's all supposed to be fun. And when you're fun, or when the thing that you do that's supposed to be fun isn't, then it merits figuring out why, having a discussion, and steering it toward fun. Now, I as a GM can't give my players anything that they want unless I know what they want, unless I get very, 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 very lucky. Okay? And I'll tell you guys honestly, I don't know if I'm good at reading people because I don't trust my own judgment. When someone uses anything on me that's not specific, I can think of 3 to 8 different things that they could mean. All right? But what I am good with is working with whatever tools I have ability. And more fun is had when someone can look at something and say, hey, I did that. Like, I did that. Those are my ideas. Like, in one game, a character took over a machine and made cybernetic spiders. That became a huge part of the plot. Check out Warp Tumblr's Dark Matter on the YouTube channel, and you guys will be able to see what happened. And it was great. It was fantastic. And I have done so many story arcs based on those spiders. And I bring this up because I got to tell someone who watched that show that that was something I didn't plan on. I didn't write that in the plot. But the player did it. I let the player do it. And again, yes, and truthfully, they have had more fun with that than they have had it with any of the other story arcs that I wrote that I thought were going to be standard adventures. So when it comes to that relationship, it isn't a matter of it's the GM's game, you follow their orders. It's the GM is the one that has to create stuff, yes. However, it is the player's position to give them a target to create for. Okay? And that is really big thing, and this is the collaborative process, you know? But let me know what you guys think. You guys can totally let me know what you think by sending an email. You see what I did there? Over to backinthedeck@gmail.com. It's BACKINTHEDECK@gmail.com. Or let's continue this conversation over on the Discord. All right, we can totally keep talking about this, but we're out of time for today's episode, and it is hot. I am burning up in here. A major thank you to my people in the chat and to my new follower. Who we got a new follower in Dog Like Nate, and thank you Black and White Now in Color for re-upping your subscription. I really appreciate that. Major thanks to Alpha Togan, Alien Conglomeration, Black and White Now in Color, Commander Root is snakeable, Manning Wilkins, Miss Moozalot, Neon Arlequinos, Sony PlayStations, Vixabel Cosplays, Xylothane. Thank all of you guys for showing up. But guess what? This isn't just the end, because tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we've got another episode of Warp Tumblr C24. Join the girls on their adventure as they find out what they have to do next when it comes to the village of the Centaurs. The C24 group is fantastic. They work together so great, and they're so much fun to watch, and they play D&D in a way that not a lot of people are used to seeing, which is kind of neat. So tune in right here at twitch.tv/BID_P at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that's in 3 hours. All right. And seriously, check out the game, and we can have some really good times with you. But until then, if anybody tells you guys that y'all can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, your disabilities, or your budget, you can tell any of them. Take those cards, put them back in the deck. This is Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, saying thank you guys. Tomorrow on the Dark Side of the Room.